of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Purpose of this meeting is for the board to conduct board business, and it is open to the public and is recorded. You can listen to all past board meetings by visiting board docs through our district website. This meeting is being presented via Zoom, and it's not appropriate for audience members to interrupt board business or ask questions during the meeting. Agenda items will be addressed as listed on the agenda. And please, in the case of emergency, please exit the room using the exit closest to you. Also would like to share the vision for the Sequim School District. Our vision is our community inspires and prepares each student to thrive. And our mission, in connection with our community, the Sequim School District empowers staff to inspire hope and provide flexible, innovative learning opportunities in a safe and respectful environment so each student thrives. And Director Hobson, would you care to read our land acknowledgement?
Sure. We acknowledge the land we stand on. The Sequim School District administrative and school buildings sit on the ancestral land of the S'Klallam people. While the S'Klallam traditionally come from one nation, history has led to the formation of three sovereign S'Klallam tribal governments. Lower Elwha S'Klallam tribe, located in Port Angeles, Washington. Jamestown S'Klallam tribe, located in Sequim, Washington. Port Gamble S'Klallam tribe, located in Kingston, Washington. The district's primary partnership is with the Jamestown S'Klallam tribe. Today, the tribe and district share a partnership that includes official consultation on program and funding changes that may directly affect American Indian and Alaska Native students, as well as holistic service planning for students to remain successful in their educational journeys.
Thank you. All right, with that, we are going to move on to our National School Counselor Week proclamation, I believe.
Yes.
Will you be sharing that?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
So February 5th through the 9th is a time when we ask the public to focus their attention on the important work of school counselors and our school psychologists. And with that, I would like to read a proclamation regarding National School Counseling Week. Whereas school counselors are employed in public and private schools to help students reach their full potential, and whereas school counselors are actively committed to helping students explore their abilities, strengths, interests, and talents as these traits relate to career awareness and development, and whereas school counselors help parents focus on ways to further the educational, personal, and social growth of their children, and whereas school counselors work with teachers and other educators to help students explore their potential and set realistic goals for themselves, and whereas school counselors seek to identify and utilize community resources that can enhance and complement comprehensive school counseling programs and help students become productive members of society. And whereas comprehensive developmental school counseling programs are considered an integral part of the educational process that enables all students to achieve success in school. Therefore, I, Superintendent Regan Nichols, do hereby proclaim February 5th through 9th, 2024 as National School Counseling Week and in recognition of school psychologists in Sequim School District. So I would like to thank all of our school counseling and psychologist teams. We do so much important work and relationship building through that avenue, and we very much appreciate their contributions.
Thank you. Okay. And with that, that is going to bring us to we had an approval of our minutes, our agenda, and our consent agenda. Is there any objection to the approval of minutes for January 22nd, January 31st, our agenda and our consent agenda? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and consider those items approved. And that is going to bring us to the public comment portion of the meeting. And there's two methods of making public comment. You can either sign up on the clipboard up front, or if you are joining us via Zoom, you can use the raise hand feature located on the bottom of your screen. go ahead and do that now if you are wishing to make public comment. And we will add you to the queue. All right, seeing no requests for public comment, I will, without objection, I'll proceed without the normal parameters around public comment. And we will move on. We do have our students are excused for this evening. They're not able to make it, so we'll move past that without objection. And that is going to bring us to our CTE annual report. Welcome.
See the back house?
They heard you were going to be speaking.
You know, they wanted the priority to be the CTE program, so here you are. They've seceded their minutes to me, so. Hold on. And Tracy's got my report to be pulled up here. Thank you, board, for support of your career tech ed program for the Sequim School District. And also want to thank Superintendent Nichols and the administrators throughout, not just in the buildings, but also in our district office, our business office, and HR who support us as well. This program only works because we've got a lot of people pulling the boat in the same direction. This is an annual requirement for CTE, and that requirement secures our opportunity to pursue the Perkins 5 grant, and that's why we maintain a presence here on the board. Excuse me. Next slide, please. A busy year this last year. Some of you have seen some of the fruits of our labors as we've worked together. I like this slide here because this is one of the most expensive purchases I think we've made in CTE. We secured an Anatomouse table and 4 tablets that are similar. That table was approximately $80,000. We received a $150,000 Commerce grant last year, and we've been reimbursed for those dollars. So there you go. But the Anatomouse table actually has digitized corpses in it. Real human corpses. And you can see by the tablet, it gives you a display all the way down from skin all the way to the smallest nerve endings. So when we do dissection and we do human body innovations and interventions, we can see a real human body in real time using that table. That's a pretty significant capability that we've added to our biomedical sciences program. And that also has other science capabilities with it for our environmental science programs as well. You typically see those tables at the I-5 corridor schools or colleges. And so we have a significant capability here now because of that one grant. Next slide. We have 23 staff members currently supporting the CTE program here between the middle school, the high school, and then Kelly Phillips has been added as part-time administrative support, and myself as the director. We also have a paraeducator, Charles Cox. We've added this year Joe Vanderway and Paul Brinkman to the high school, to the middle school, Konstantin Samarikov, and so we've got a few extra additions because we've grown the program over the last 2 years. And we'll see that here in a minute. Currently, out of the 8 affiliations for career tech student organizations, we maintain 6 here at Sequim School District. FFA, HOSA, which is our Biomedical Sciences, Health Occupation Services Association, Technical Skills Association, Skills USA, Future Business Leaders of America, and Future Consumer Science Leaders of America as well. We have grown the program to 62 approved courses of those. Next slide. And these are the courses that are currently approved and in our course catalog. And the reason I know they're approved is we've gone through a pretty high level program audit this year from OSPI. And these are the various programs that are currently sitting on our books that we can access and put into the program. Of those, I think we're currently running about 52 active programs. Quite a few programs that we have here in the district. These programs that I've highlighted were ones that in our OSPI audit were disapproved, and we would never have known that apart from the audit, because what I can see through the CTE portal is different than what OSPI can see. And so this year across the state, they did an audit of all the programs across the state. These 8 came up as disapproved. And there are a lot of reasons for that. I don't want to go into it right now, but we took the time and we got all those programs reapproved as well. So they are now active and up and running. It's important to maintain an eye on those approvals because those courses are funded with enhanced funds for the approved courses. All right, so let's say a general education program receives a 1.0 funding. A CTE program fully funded would be at about 1.2 or a little bit less than that. CTE offers graduation pathways apart from the high stakes testing. Students who complete 2 CTE credits, 180 hours each, for a total of 360 hours, with one of those programs being a preparatory program, and both of those programs being in the same career cluster, qualify for a graduation pathway. And the example there at the bottom, you can see if I'm a student and I complete welding 1 year, and then go on to complete welding 2 the next year, I have completed a graduation pathway. And if I don't pass my Smarter Balance assessment in my sophomore, junior year, then I still can maintain graduation by completing those CTE credits. We're always looking for ways to improve our capability there. The way you get a preparatory approval is that the course must either offer a dual credit, which is aligned with a college, or it must offer an industry grade credential. And our programs have many affiliations with colleges, and our preparatory programs also have many opportunities for either that industry ready credential. And we'll give you some examples. Currently, we have 22 programs that are articulated at three different colleges: Peninsula College, Olympic College, and Yakima Valley College. And you can see if you just go across there, for instance, if we have business math here, they receive 3 credits, and that would be with Olympic College. And those articulations run for approximately 3 years. This year, we'll be renewing all those articulations at the end of this school year. I'm already in conversations with the 3 colleges that we use and to facilitate that.
So I'm sorry, Ned, when you say articulation, does that just mean that if, say, one of our students enrolls at Olympic College, they would get a corresponding college credit for that class of that many credits?
Correct. In fact, what happens here is that class offers enrollment there at no cost to the student.
Mm-hmm.
So if the student is thinking, hey, I'm going to be enrolling in Peninsula College this year.
Mm-hmm.
I just finished welding 1 and welding 2. I think that's a total of about 22 credits that are sitting out there. Mm-hmm. We're just going to enroll you in Peninsula College to grab those credits and put them on a transcript. That's how we would go about doing that. And so all the teachers who are running those programs keep track, and they have an ability to go into the college's course catalog and put those kids into that program.
So even if they don't enroll in the school and actually attend there, they get the college credit
They can,
that they
yes.
can take to a different institution?
Well, we would get them on their transcript, and then they would be able to take that Peninsula College transcript and apply it to Olympic or whatever.
Thank you.
Because I believe that community colleges across the state are in alignment in terms of credit share.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of our growth over the years, and growth isn't always a good thing, but in CTE, it generally is. Let me take you back to when 2021, we had approximately 214 FTE at the high school and approximately 11 FTE at the middle school. FTE, full-time equivalent students. In 3 years or 2.5 years, we've jumped that to 238 students FTE at the high school and 53 student FTE at the middle school. So this year alone, we've increased an 18 FTE. So that's a lot more enhanced funding against those programs. All of our programs have to be balanced on the programs that we choose have to be balanced against a lot of variables. One of those variables is the labor market. They must inform our decisions for bringing those programs into our district and funding against those. When we receive a request to put a program here, one of the first evaluations we do is what does the labor market require? That's not the only evaluation and it's not the only variable. A lot of our effort over the last 2 years has been picking up low-hanging fruit. What I mean by that is we've really put a lot of new programs in at the middle school because those middle school programs, which are exploratory, lead a student into a pathway for the high school programs. So we've grown our program and we've balanced it against labor market demands, but we have work to do there. There's some unpicked fruit that we need to do with respect to that, and particularly in the construction trades industry. And that's an area of emphasis that we are focusing on this year. The initiatives that we in place this past year, and I really thank the teaching staff for doing this because they picked the majority of the work to do this. They have to develop the frameworks and the scheduling, and it's really on their backs and shoulders and brains to get this done. We've added the AP Computer Science at the high school and digital media at the middle school. And for next year, we're proposing to add a course called Introduction to Industry Tech at the middle school. Why are we trying to bring that there? Well, because everything we put in at the middle school makes the things we do at the high school more efficient. For instance, if I have no skill sets, I've never been introduced to how to work within an industry platform like a shop. I don't know a skill saw from a bandsaw, a claw hammer from a ball peen hammer. And then the first time I've introduced to that in 9th grade, I have limited time to get that student to where they need to be, where they're job ready. But if I begin that introduction in 8th grade across a spectrum of industry trades to include construction, now I have a better platform when that student arrives in 9th grade to begin at a much higher level. And that's really our intent with this change going forward. Next slide, please. So what is our way ahead? What's our strategy for the near and the long term? Well, we're currently receiving and pursuing grants and budgets that are compatible. This year, we received 42,000 approximately. Darlene can, she's always into the details. I'm into the approximates, but about 42,000 for our Perkins 5. We received a $35,000 grant for a high skill, high demand grant. We received $10,000 for an AP Computer Science grant. We're pursuing the Perkins Reserve grant at $30,000. We're pursuing a career launch grant at $135,000. And just recently, we applied for the local community project grant that will help fund our first phase of our CTE Center of Excellence. And we're pursuing $5 million for that grant. And that's thanks to Superintendent Nichols and the great CTE staff we have that feed into that information. And I would also say to our community, folks in our community have really rallied around our pursuit of these grants and have provided us a lot of support, to include our Rotary Club, our Economic Development Council, our legislators. They're all involved in this pursuit of helping Sequim get some monies to get us into that cutting edge technology and a space that'll support it. What's our vision forward? Really, it's create, develop, build, and complete. 4 simple words, but each one of them carry a message. We want to create stronger relationships with our community, regional colleges, labor and industry, and nonprofits. Just an example, Workforce Development Council, we're affiliated with that. We're affiliated with the West Sound STEM organization, which provides us between $30,000 and $50,000 of opportunities for our teachers in networked cohorts that help them get professional development training and many times pay them a stipend to attend. We're affiliated with the West Sound Education Development Council, which is out of Olympic College. We're affiliated with the Great Northwest CTE Network. So we have lots of affiliations that rally around us to help us move forward. The Rotary Club has been incredible in our partnerships. Peninsula College, Olympic College, Yakima College, all of them are in support of what we're trying to do, and they do it at a very low cost, sometimes free. We want to develop greater CTE capability and capacity of programs to support our regional labor and market demands for post-high school graduates. We want job-ready graduates, folks who have a passion for what they're doing. And many of you got an opportunity a month or two ago to see that firsthand with our automotives department, where we had 10 students who were honored by the Rotary Club for their ability to gain employment through their education and the affiliation that the automotives team here at Sequim has with our industries in the region. We want to build a more comprehensive CTE plan, which we've done actually, and we had it approved at our last General Advisory Council in October. But in doing so, we want to be smart about the grant opportunities that we leverage and apply back here. We can't create a capability that we cannot facilitate. Our capabilities need to be tied to the requirements of our educational programs. And then finally, we want to complete the design and implementation of a new CTE Center for Excellence. We've not given that up. We're like a dog holding onto a bone here. All right. And, we've had to downsize it to scope part of it into a $5 million footprint, whereas last year we were hoping for a $15 million footprint. But we've been effectively able to do that with the council of our steering committee coming in, working alongside us to bring this down to a phase 1 approach to this. We get phase 1 done, we've got a footprint for phase 2 all ready to go. Are there questions from the board at this time that I may address?
That
Director Jeffers.
out of the anatomy table.
Yeah,
You said you got that with a grant,
yes, it was.
and I assume, is that one we paid for out of our minimum fund balance and then got reimbursed for?
It was an almost immediate reimbursement, by the way, because we were at the end of the year. And so we paid for it with that fund balance, but I think it was immediately reimbursed within a few weeks. I mean, it wasn't
Right,
long
but
at
that's
all.
something we used that minimum fund
Right.
balance for.
Mhm.
Then you said applying for some of these other grants near the end of your presentation.
Correct,
That's another reason to have that minimum fund
sure.
balance there, so that if you do get awarded a grant,
Mhm.
basically, the way I understand it, we have to buy it, pay for it
Mhm.
upfront, and then we get reimbursed. But if we don't have that money in our minimum fund balance,
Correct, we would not get it. In
we
fact,
wouldn't get it.
the $150,000 grant we received from the Commerce Department was contingent upon the fact that we could pay for it up front and then we'd be reimbursed. And so it was a contingency that was required. And honestly, even with our federal dollars that we receive in Perkins, we don't get those until we've expended the funds and then or apply for reimbursement, if I'm correct on that, Darrell.
And those funds are expended out of that minimum fund balance.
Correct. But there's also CTE dollars that come in,
Yeah.
and again, those dollars, for me, they're like Jello, right? Or an artesian well. You never know how full your artesian well is until it's near empty. And then it kind of fills back up a little bit. And so the CTE dollars are a little bit like Jello for me because they're depending on our FTE footprint. The more students we have enrolled in CTE at full-time equivalents, the more dollars we'll have coming to us. But then through the year, you see those CTE dollars, just like our budget here, they tend to ebb and flow with enrollment. And that's another reason why we must make sure that our programs are appealing to our students, not only from an interest perspective, but for just a practical perspective. If I do this program and it's in my passion and I get a job because of it, it's all bonus. It's all win, win, win. So it's one of the reasons we're constantly revisiting these programs to see level of interest from the students. Because if you have a program that's only producing 7 or 8 graduates or 7 or 8 students, it's costing us more to run that program and keep it in place. So that's something we have to constantly evaluate from a fiscal responsibility.
I have a question. Why Yakima Community College? When you think about regional,
Sure.
building regional community connections, seems a little bit off the beaten path.
It is, and the reason Yakima is because the 2 courses that are articulated through it are our vet science program. And that's the closest college we could find that had a vet science program that would articulate that. We actually have other programs that could be articulated. Olympic College did a complete audit of all of our programs and our frameworks and offered us more articulations. But that articulation agreement isn't between myself or even you. It's between the teacher and the faculty of those colleges. And the teacher has to feel confident when they put their stamp of approval on that student that they're ready, they're college ready.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you have to be very patient in order to get those articulations just right.
Thank you.
Question. You mentioned that I saw in your slides that we had 57 CTE classes for our high school, which is awesome, but only 5 at our middle school. Is that by
Correct.
design? Is that lack of enrollment? Is it money, logistics? Why are we offering 5?
Sure. Yeah.
Or does that meet what our standards that we want? Only 5?
Right. I agree 100%. 3 years ago, we had 2.
Yeah.
All right. It takes time to put those programs in place. You can't really just do them willy-nilly in that respect, but they also must link in some way to our programs up here. Could we put a culinary arts in the middle school? If we had a culinary arts area in the middle school to do it in, sure. Could we put a wood shop in the middle school? So long as we leverage the spaces that we have, you see. So some of these spaces limit what we can do in the middle school, because in many ways, some of the CTE design of the middle school was converted over the years to other programs. And you've lost those capabilities, and to re-engage those capabilities are going to take money up front. So what we've been trying to do is, where do we have an open space here that we potentially could put a CTE program into an open space here? And that also requires a CTE teacher as well. So there are several things that have to occur, not only the writing of the frameworks and the planning against the schedule, but we have to also think about personnel and then facilities. And then what is the level of fidelity that we're going to teach that program to for the level of student that we have. But we are working that program right now.
Okay.
Mark Harris last year supported us bringing in the biomedical detectives program and the science and technology program. This year, we brought in the digital media program. We have the robotics and game design program already in place.
Okay. So for the shop classes, for lack of a better term, it's more of a facilities issue at this point would be, I know there's several, you said staffing
Sure.
and stuff, but that would be our biggest hurdle, I think, at this point is our.
I don't think
facility.
I don't think the 8th grade, I think I've already have a plan for that. I've
Okay.
already overcome that hurdle.
Right.
The plan, the real hurdle would be is, how are we going to staff it? Because that's your highest cost at this point. I think I can get the grants to resource it. I think I might be able to get a grant to help with the staffing potentially. But as you know, some of those grants aren't paid to the end.
Right.
So we have to do a really good evaluation of that. But because I do think we have open spots in our shop that are not being used currently. And we have to, again, just balancing that against the schedule of the high school, the personnel that we have, and then the scheduling of the middle school. But I anticipate that we're going to be successful in getting that done this year.
Excellent. Thank you.
Of course, I'm not a person who who anticipates failure.
I know.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I was gonna mention, well, way back when I was in middle school, in the huge campus of Chimacum. They just had middle school, just went over to the high school, which was just, a little further walk to go, but I'm just, curious how you could probably have You know, and I know it's not as simple as that, but
Mhm.
exploring where you can have folks teaching middle school and, you know,
You
over at
bet.
high school. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
know that happens to some degree occasionally too in other areas.
Director Pickens, you're reading my mind here.
Okay.
I hope you're not reading my mail.
Not
But yeah,
today.
But we are looking at how we can leverage our existing capability to support that.
Yeah.
Before we make decisions on what we're actually how we're going to field it, we have lots of variables we want to take a look at. Here's my drop dead point for you on it. By April 15th, I have to have those frameworks submitted to OSPI for approval. And that will detail out everything that we're going to do. It happens right after our spring general advisory committee meeting where they will vote on it and either approve or disapprove it. I do think favorably that we'll get what we want this year with middle school. My goal is the next year out is we elevate the high school's construction program to beyond cabinet making, beyond, you know, woodworking, but into the actual construction trades. By taking an industry tech approach, the idea for this came from my experience at Forks, my first year on staff here. When you rented me out to Forks for the year, they have an 8th grade program that has 5 modules. They have a computer-aided design module. They have an electronics module. They have a woodworking construction module, and they have a 3D laser printing module. And we have these 5 industry kind of grade modules. And the students are in those modules for 4 to 5 weeks each for a semester. And you can see what kind of experiences they would have and how that would prep them for when they rolled up here. And that's really kind of the model that I'm using to frame this out.
Okay.
Any other questions? I just want to thank you all for putting up with this briefing and
Thank you, Ned.
just
Thank
really
you for
the
your
support you all give.
enthusiasm
Putting
for
up with it.
CTE.
It was a pleasure.
Of course.
Thank
Was.
you.
All right. That's going to bring us to our superintendent report. I'm sure it will be another pleasure.
Thank you. Okay, first thing I'd like to share is about the fact that we used a snow day. So when your district uses a snow day, you have to make that day up. And so on our school calendar, we have 3 days that are marked as snow day makeup days, and we select one to be the makeup day. So May 10th is the makeup day for our snow in the past. And so we will be having school on May 10th, and we will be issuing an updated calendar so that folks know that they should come to school on May 10th. Okay. Okay, next, wanted to just give you an update on some of the campus renovations. Director Santos will be here at our next board meeting for his usual briefing. But what is active right now is you probably saw in the parking lot of the district office, we are having ADA compliance made to both the ramp coming into district office and also to the parking spaces that are in the parking lot. Those were deemed to be out of compliance. Also, the bathrooms for the auditorium were out of ADA compliance as well. And so that construction is going to be underway quite soon. Because of that bathroom work, we are going to be having a trailer, a lavatory trailer out in front of the auditorium for some time. So that is out there now, and staff have been issued access to that as needed. I also will let you know that we are having briefings along the way from Director Santos on the future projects that are coming to include the HVAC. And OPA's HVAC heating has been worked on the most. And so that continues, and you'll hear more from him when he comes next time on the 20th. I'd like to let you know that last time when I gave a report, I talked about surveys that we'll be disseminating. And we are going to be issuing a Center for Educational Effectiveness survey. However, we did ask that we enter questions into that survey related to busing, and the cost to do that was cost prohibitive. So we are going to actually put out a survey next Monday, 1 week from today, so that everyone can have access to a survey made for them. So there will be one for staff, there will be one for families, and we're also going to survey secondary students, grades 6 through 12. And this will be about both later start and about a 2-tier busing to divide K-5 from 6-12. Now, in preparation for this, in 1 week, we would like to introduce a new website tab to you. So on our website right now, we have a new live tab. It's called Explore to Bell Schedule. When you go into this tab, it poses the points that we make about why we are exploring this, and that's what it is, a simple exploration. It does give you a link to Director Hall's presentation from last month. And it also does give you references, research, and sources, many links where you can read about what different research says about sleep for secondary level students. We also have links that talk about the pros and cons of making such a shift in district. We talk about community feedback and how we will be seeking that through the surveys that will come out on February 12th, and then possible challenges. So we will be keeping this website tab updated, so it's a resource page, and we will always have down in the right-hand corner coming soon, so you can see what is going to be the next phase. So you can see that our surveys will be issued, and then we will be putting up example schedules of what could be based on some feedback that we receive. Okay, so you can check that out. I'd like to let you know that at times, the Washington State Risk Pool is our insurance company, and they come to us and want to interview the district about our practices. And so we have just worked with them to have our administrative team participate so that they could answer questions about our policies and procedures. And I would say that type of insight is very valuable to the risk pool, to hear from the practitioners who are facilitating these policies and procedures right on the ground. And then following that meeting, they meet with district office leadership. So we're continuing to try to get all of the resources from the risk pool and be introduced to some of the speakers and trainings that they do offer. So we'll continue in that vein. I'd like to let you know that we're having a tech refresh staff input session, and that's going to start on Wednesday at 3:30, and we're going to have multiple sessions. We've invited our staff to come and to give input because our computers are certainly at their life's end for students, and staff would argue that theirs are also certainly approaching that, and what types of devices are going to meet the needs of the future. And then certainly financing them is going to be the next question, because these devices were bought with ESSER funds. So to have the flow of financials to purchase new, some districts turn to tech levies to do just that. So we'll be talking about mechanisms we have in place. I would say that building visits will start occurring next week. I will be going out to each building to talk to each staff about the financial presentation. We'll take the PowerPoint along and make sure people have a chance to ask questions and get information. But I'm also looking for input about what staff interests would be in certain ways that we would tackle an elephant of a problem like we do have with the financial balances. So I'll be letting you know what that schedule is. Okay. A reminder that Jamestown Slalom Tribe is having their parent advisory night tomorrow evening, and that's from 4 to 5:30 in the Red Cedar Room. And certainly we've invited you, and we look forward to a strong turnout, hopefully, of parents too, who would like to hear about our connection with the tribe. And then I have Sodexo survey results. Sodexo is our contracted service company for school lunches. And they put out a survey in November, and it was about overall satisfaction, variety of menu items, and food quality, along with some other things. So I'm just going to pass this down the line so you can take a look at that. I think what we would want to recognize is that we have had some compliments about the way the high school especially is introducing some new types of items like stir fry and an omelet day. We still recognize that the quality of ingredients is what students are asking about, and can there be an improvement there? We are going out for the bid for school nutrition this year, so we'll be thoughtful about that. But when it comes down to it too, remember the way we're funded for school lunches is through CEP and Provision 2. And those are challenging because we give the meals and then we wait for reimbursement. And if the meals are not managed in how they're passed out to a T, we don't get reimbursed for any meal that might be missed. So it takes a real partnership between a school and the school nutrition Sodexo company to make sure we're covering all of that. And I just met with Tandy Walston, who's our director for Sodexo, and she's great. And she's working very hard to make sure we're getting all of the reimbursement we can, so we're maximizing it. But it is a challenge, and we actually would be looking for increased reimbursement rates since we are involved with CEP, and the state of Washington wants us to be involved because feeding all students is the ultimate goal. But we do need to be able to sustain it financially as well. And then finally, I would say that today we did enjoy a radio interaction with KSQM, and I just would like to thank them for the partnership and helping our school district get the message out to the community about what we are doing. And I hope that volunteerism grows from every touch that we have. I'll be going to the Shipley Center next week, and we'll certainly be seeking volunteers so that people can get into our schools and see what we're about. I did meet with the student advisory group today, and we are in the throes of planning spring tours of the buildings that are student-led. So that should be a pretty interesting component to bring to you soon. Thank you.
Imagine that have another layer as we talk about the two-tier bus system and exploring those options. We're gonna have to keep in mind the budget part of this conversation too. That's another whole layer when we first started exploring this.
Correct. The important thing about exploration is to keep an open mind, because one thing, Director Hall's with us tonight, one thing that we have looked at is how can we condense runs if we make some type of a change, and is there a means by which we could do so and not necessarily save a lot of money, but certainly have something that is stable for a financial package for transportation. So we'll be looking at that.
Okay. All right, any other questions for Superintendent Lucas? All right. That's gonna move us on to board business. First thing we have is approval of our 24-25 and 25-26 calendar.
I move we approve the 24, 26, two calendars, 24, 25, 24, 26,
25-26.
whatever, what I said,
The next two school years.
the next two school years, okay.
All
All right, do it second. Do you have a second, Director Roca? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Do we have any discussion? I saw you move the mic closer. Did you have anything to start us with, or?
Well, I just would point out a couple of attributes that we have kept consistent, and that is having the majority of our professional days before school starts so that we are front loading the year with anything that staff would need to know or want to discuss, have collaboration time. We continue to focus on Halloween being the time at which we're having conferences, and we actually have discussed that. And should that remain, I will say that our community is quite closely tied to activities throughout the afternoon of Halloween. So we recognize that and think that this has worked for us, and we're going to continue it for now. And then looking ahead, you'll see that our vacations, we had a request that we please be communicating with Port Angeles and making sure, because we share staff from each of our communities across the school districts. So we have looked at that to be thinking ahead. And then we keep talking about how we structure snow days into our calendar, because it is of interest that we continue to have the May dates looked at. I've been informed, and I appreciate it, about the past carnival times that have come to town, and making sure that we're looking at those days as potential not having school in May. So otherwise, I think we've brought you calendars that are consistent and meet the criteria our calendar committee was most interested in prioritizing.
Couple of things I appreciate. I appreciate when there does need to be whether a non-school day or potentially a non-school day based on the snow days, that those are scheduled on Fridays. Coming from the elementary world, where you have already so many Monday holidays, sometimes, you know, the way they do specialist schedules and those type of things, it can be it can have a disproportionate effect on those who have certain schedules where it's Monday. So I do appreciate the variation there. And also the correlation with like on December, where the December break, where it's a full 2 weeks, Monday through Friday, 2 weeks, Monday through Friday, because then you have overlapping weekends as well. So I'm sure that our families that are out doing traveling, as well as our staff, will hopefully appreciate those two things. So I did notice we are starting school a little bit earlier than we have in the past couple of years, where we're doing it. The past couple of years, it was right after Labor Day by a day or so, but I assume there's some pros and cons, right, with that.
There are pros and cons, but I will speak to this. When folks look at our calendars, I've heard nothing but joy exclaimed about what day we're getting out in June.
Yes.
I think there was a question earlier in the year where we made a significant change to the calendar, and the question was whether we needed to vote on that. I think since we adopt these two calendars by a vote, if we have a significant change, we'll need to re-vote on that change.
Yeah.
Once these are established.
Yeah.
And I don't know what significant change means, but we'll know it when we see it.
Well, I would, one thing I would say, a perfect example is what Superintendent Nichols just described about the day that we will need to make up this year, because that's a pre-planned snow day
Right.
that's already built in. So I would consider that not something that the board needs to vote on, although I
Right.
do appreciate you bringing it to our attention, of course. But yeah.
But I forget what it was, but there was something where we changed the calendar. We weren't sure whether we should vote on it or not, and I think out of due caution, we decided to vote on it.
Yeah. Oh, probably for the boys of the boat accommodation.
I think so, yeah. That might have been it.
So. All right. And if for some reason, I know we're approving 2 years worth, but I think Director Jeffries brings up a question. If there's something unforeseen in the 25-26 school year, or maybe after this one rolls out, that there's, you know, significant concerns for whatever reason, I'm assuming we could revisit that pretty early on.
I would appreciate that, because one discussion we do have is how professional learning days work and where to place them on the calendar. And you don't really know something till you try it out. So us having the flexibility to be able to discuss and experience things and then come back if we have better recommendations, that would be how I hope we would operate. And plenty of time, of course, for people who plan ahead.
Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Everybody? Motion passes unanimously. Right. Let's go to 11.02, the approval of Sequim Administrators Association 2023 through 2026 agreement.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome Victoria up to speak about the administrator's contract, and to let you know that this contract actually came to its close last June 30th. So we were in need to have this finished off for the 23-26. So we are now bringing it to you, and it's a bit later than the date we had wanted to. So thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Nichols, Board of Directors. This is a very straightforward renewal of their contract. They, the administrative team came to us and they said, hey, we would like some parameters around what the district expects of us. We have some things written into our agreement that we've had some question marks about. And so that's really what we did. We defined what it means to have a remote day. That means when students are not in school, like during the summer, or vacations, what it means to, expectations around remote day and their use, the purpose and appropriate use of personal days. Personal days are personal days for business that cannot be handled during your off time. And then there's vacation. The administrators had an interest in establishing some boundaries around when vacation could be taken that wouldn't be disrupted to any other work that needed to be done during the summer. So we worked on finding a time that we could kind of guarantee them there'd be time to take vacation and they wouldn't be expected to come back for meetings. I don't know if you have anything else to add, Superintendent Nichols.
I would share that we have a very hardworking administrative team, and they were quite practical in their requests and just wanted to have clarifications so that they were able to interpret what we would be asking in times like summer. And so I really appreciated the questions because clarity brings comfort for everyone.
That we approve. Are you ready for motion?
Sure.
Okay. I move that we approve the changes to the Sequim Administrators Association 23-26 agreement.
I second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes unanimously. It's going to bring us to first reading policy 2410, high school graduation requirements. And this is a first reading, so
Yeah.
I
It looks like it's just a minor change of a reference.
I move we approve
Yeah.
the, all right, I move we move policy 2410, high school graduation requirements forward to a second reading.
Second.
any discussion?
Now we can discuss. There is significant change. Okay, thank you.
All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. First reading policy 5271, reporting improper governmental action, whistleblower protection.
I move that we move the policy 5271, reporting improper governmental action, to a second reading.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? Looks like this one's just adding cross references. Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That's going to bring us to 11.05 Legislative Conference, Day on the Hill, discussion, including House Bill 2215. All right, you want to kick us off?
First of all, thank you for your time to attend Day on the Hill last Sunday and Monday. I think that we had a legislative contingent who was responsive to attend meetings with us, and I was very appreciative of that. I also appreciate your advocacy while we were there on the number of subjects that we wanted to discuss. And if you continue to follow the Week in Olympia document that does come out from WASDA, bills they've fallen off by the wayside. So we still are going to be tracking for the special ed cap to be moving up towards 17.25. It does seem as though the capital levy and bond 50% is not going to be furthered, unfortunately. And it does seem as though we might see something around MSOC, which is around your materials, supplies, and operating costs. And we'll look forward to what comes next. While we were at Day on the Hill, we did experience a discussion about HB 2215, which would bring the ability for a community that has reached their levy cap to be able to seek further levy option by having receivership modified. And I think that we should discuss this and what its benefits could be to our school district, because signing on to letters from other districts around this, there still is opportunity there for HB 2215.
I don't know all the details on that particular House bill. It looks like it didn't move forward, but Senate Bill 5956, which is a companion, has moved forward. And it was in hearings today, big, long hearings. I don't know the status of it, but I think the spirit of the letter that we might sign on to, basically written by the Seattle School Board, president of the Seattle School Board, makes sense. So that may be something we want to sign on to, or at least continue in the interim to push. If it doesn't pass this session, to continue to support that if we choose to do that. And I agree, right now today is another cutoff day, and I don't know, probably Thursday during in-session, the WASDA in-session webinar, Zoom meeting at noon on Thursday. We'll probably go into more detail what has happened to some of the bills we love and maybe some of the bills we don't love so much. And I can tell they're talking to the legislators and talking to WASDA. It's just a overwhelming number of bills to be looked at and decided upon in a very short period of time. And all kinds of people want their bill to move forward, and we all come out of the same pot of money. So somebody could have a really good idea for a road project that absolutely needs to be done, who's competing for money to fund special ed, which absolutely needs to be done. Well, special ed, universal free lunch for everybody. There's all kinds of educational bills that are absolutely necessary in some of our minds, but there's only a certain pot of money. So I kind of, I got the impression talking to the legislators, some of them are overwhelmed. Some of them have pet projects they're pushing that may or may not be education related. And some seem to be disconnected with what's going on in education. So it's an interesting mix, but all of them are working hard, and it's a tough job, especially in a short session like this, to make everybody happy, and they won't.
The first I guess just to touch on the letter. At times I'm a little conflicted about this, because what it essentially does, adding a regionalization component to the maximum amount that one can levy, it's sort of and the original bill, I'm not sure about the Senate bill, but the House bill did say this is very temporary and kind of says there needs to be, in fact, I'm reading that one of the drafts where it says beginning December 1st, 2025, the superintendent of public instruction must submit a report providing recommendations to the governor and legislator to remedy outstanding school funding challenges. The report must provide recommendations to remedy specific funding issues, including school levies, levy equalization, and regionalization. which,
Why do they need to wait till 2025 for that?
Well-
Can you write that letter tomorrow? or-
yes,
Yes.
but. And within itself, that sounds, oh, okay, they're looking at having some teeth to it to accept that this is kind of a temporary measure, but at the same time, I do kind of look at this as shifting the burden as well, which because of what it allows more flexibility for districts to raise the funds locally. That being said, I do see there are districts right now that are at the cap based on the current amount. And so they don't even have like we talked about backfilling the amounts using our levy. We have some that can't even backfill because they are already at the max, the absolute maximum for the levy. So even an EP&O levy isn't an option to meet that deficit. So Chimicum is one of them that's, based on their enrollment, they're already at.
Is there a concern too that it's an easy out for the legislature that, oh, okay, these local districts are saying they'll raise more of their own money, great, and then what do you do for the communities that aren't able to sustain that? I mean, I don't see how that, I mean, if it's a temporary fix for a temporary problem, that's one thing, but if basically what they're saying is, we just want, to do this backfilling instead of going to the legislature and saying, you are not giving us enough money. This is not realistic for you to fund MSOC 2% when everybody knows inflation on these items has been 10%. How does that make any sense? And for them to go, oh, well, just go put out a bigger levy. What? I mean, I have a hard time having that as an actual policy position. I mean, I know we need money and we should raise it wherever we can, but to me, that seems like letting the legislature off the hook.
Yeah.
They need to be funding that, not the local taxpayers.
But
I mean, the local taxpayers pay it obviously into the state, but still.
And I want to just say one thing to that. I do see a need for some differential, and I think you all know what I think about the existing regionalization model.
Mhm.
Not a big
Not a
fan.
Mhm.
I think it should be at most 2% district to district.
Mhm.
However, we do use EP&O levies to fund extra positions. Could be extra staff positions, whether it's a counselor. Now, I would argue we should have fixed the prototypical model as well, so that,
Right.
but we do fix those. The EP&O levy is for those extra positions. It could be sports. And so the one part of the rationale is that with regionalization broken as it is, there is going to be a difference in costs for us funding those extra staff members, like here in Sequim, versus extra staff members funded in Seattle, just based on that cost of living difference.
Mhm.
So I see the logic in it, but to your point, there's other things that are unfunded right now, for sure. But to have some regionalization metric does.
Yeah, and I
kinda-
have to say, I don't claim to really understand it that well. It just seems to me that it's a mechanism where rich districts will get richer, because obviously a district with a very high tax base is going to have an easier time raising money, and more poor rural districts will continue to struggle. You'll continue to have voters who are like, who vote against it, not out of any hatred for the school system, but, people who feel like they can't afford to support it, and so, I mean, I have real concerns about it from a general policy standpoint. But if it's, like I said, if it's a temporary thing to just try to help some districts, I mean, I wouldn't oppose it, but I really hope we can push back on those other issues.
Well, I wonder too, if Seattle's the one that is leading this with the letter, who else is signing on? If there's, to know whether or not there's really a cross-section of school districts of varying ability to fund themselves that are signing on to this letter. And I guess I have trouble turning down something because it doesn't solve the problem. I think it's going to take more than a couple more legislative sessions to solve the problem. And in the meantime, the students need funding, so for me, I don't think one precludes the other. So,
I did meet with the board president in Chimacum. And I don't know that that Chimacum signed on to the letter,
Mhm.
but I do know that she discussed as a specific example, that max enrollment cap as being definitely a problem for Chimacum. So potentially it could. I don't think we are at our maximum,
We are not.
but we also may just given our financial concerns, it's good to keep options open.
Sure.
I think we need to keep options open, given the, our financial discussion we had tonight. That's one of the options we keep open. The summary of this bill says we would be able to increase per pupil limits for enrichment levy purposes must be multiplied by the district's regionalization factor. So in other words, I guess we could increase it by 6% if we wanted to go to the max. We thought that was the thing to do. I don't know. And I think it's a little bit of wishful thinking to think that the state legislature is going to fix the prototypical model. Not this session for sure, but they'll do it next time, I'm sure. I think you're right that it's going to take 2 or 3 long and short sessions, maybe longer, to get that fixed. This might be an intermediate remedy, maybe, but I agree, we ought to see who's signing on to this. Is it all 295 school districts, or is it just Seattle and the bigger districts and Portal, Sequim? I don't know.
If it can get next legislative session, I think that's a question as to who gets elected.
And this particular bill may have moved on. I don't know. And then we could just decide, well, instead of signing the letter, do we support the bill? Do we send our legislators, please vote, yes, or we don't say anything. I don't know, but that's up to you. But I really do appreciate legislative session or conference and the day on the Hill, the proactive, enthusiastic participation of all the board members, including our student board and our superintendent. I thought there were things to be learned, and I'm glad we were there. And our presence was noted, because we met with all 3 of our legislators on a one-to-one meeting with the board. And I think that was very important. So, it was, you never know how those days are going to go, but I thought it went pretty well. In spite of them being really, really busy at times, they showed up for a one-to-one.
So if we're wanting to sign on to this letter, could be a motion might be in order. If there's interest.
I could follow up, well, maybe you could follow up with the board president, Seattle. Like, who signed on to this letter and what is the status of the letter right now? Because it was kind of time sensitive. We heard about this on the 29th. And the cutoff date was the 31st. And of course, we didn't meet till today, the 5th. So it's kind
so it's
of,
possible it's even too late now.
it may be, well, we could sign on to it, but it may not have the effect, but,
Yeah.
And if they voted it out of committee today, our letter again would arrive too late. I don't know. It's a little bit confusing.
If there is a position of support from the Sequim School Board, then regardless what we find out as to the status of the letter, if the board wanted to move forward with anything, whether that be one of us signing in pro and speaking, one of us, to whatever degree, or having me sign. If the letter is still live, I could certainly sign on the board's behalf, once I know the board, if the
Right.
board has taken a position. If the board hasn't, I would not.
I signed up, I submitted my pro for as an individual citizen, not as a spokesman for the board. And all of us could do that still. But if we're gonna do it as a board, then it would take a board consensus or a board vote to say, yes, let's have the president of our school board sign it as representing all of us.
I would suggest that we have you vote. And then we have President Pickens review the contents of the letter, because I'm wondering if there might have been any modification since this shift to the Senate bill, and determine if it is appropriate to sign on as a mechanism, but a message is still in the letter that we expect the legislature to come through with their job. Not that we're interested in this mechanism to be a future solution to these underfunding constraints. Because my concern is that if we forward something that is a direction that the legislature could just turn to us and say, well, why don't you just do that?
Yeah.
It gets to be too easy. So I think the sentiment is, I hear some commonality, but I think we should review the letter itself and
I
make
agree, I
that decision.
agree.
I so move,
Currently okay, first we'll do that,
I so move that long statement that you just made.
because Tracy captured all of it. Is there a second?
What is the motion?
Can you repeat your motion?
I so move Reagan's discussion about moving forward. Where
But reviewing the letter
President
before
Pickens
signing.
will
Basically
be
giving
reviewing-
Eric the discretion to sign a letter as long as the letter says, we view this as a short-term fix.
Yeah.
And that,
Can we hold off on
Yeah.
the motion for a second?
Sure.
All right,
Well, it
let me
hasn't
go
been
ahead and,
seconded,
let me
so-
go ahead and read the verbatim that discusses that right now. So then
Okay.
it says, we recognize that increasing levy authority is not an equitable nor sustainable solution for the ongoing and stable funding of basic education. We also understand that there are constraints in a short session necessitating only minor changes in policy and budget. This is a solution that costs the state no money and quickly responds to the financial distress of multiple districts in dire need.
so it sort of addresses it.
I think
Yeah.
it's clear that it does, that this is a short-term solution in a moment of crisis.
I'm not optimistic that it will be viewed that way. But I will vote for Eric to sign the letter anyway.
So,
If that is still
I
a
think
letter,
the
then.
statement should be stronger in the letter. So if you have any opportunity to affect its language.
yeah,
Well, we can write our own language. We could send our own letter theoretically.
Yeah, I think something along
We
the
need-
wording of what Pat said, I share her same concerns that it's sending maybe a wrong message that we don't want to send. So maybe something to the effect of, while we don't think this will solve the problems, any type of temporary help is appreciated as we move towards longer term solutions.
Mhm.
But, yeah, we do have to make clear this is not going to solve the problem. It may stave it off so that we can catch a breath.
I think it makes clear that there is a crisis. And that's what we need to emphasize. And in that way, I think it serves a really important purpose in highlighting the crisis to the legislature that we have to take this step. So I like the wording.
so do we have a motion?
What's your motion?
Okay, I move that we authorize Eric to look into, to consider signing off on this letter. And possibly see if they could strengthen the language regarding our view that this is just a temporary fix and that it is a temporary solution to a very serious problem that the legislature is obviously not going to address right now. And that in your discretion, you can sign it on behalf of the board if you believe it's in the district's best interest.
I'll second that.
Okay.
I do think it's interesting that Sequim might be sending on to a Seattle
Yeah,
letter, because we normally,
I think this is not just a Seattle.
no,
issue,
but
for sure.
that's who
Yeah,
very strongly presented by the Seattle board president. And it's coming from, and Sequim might want to sign on to a Seattle initiative.
Yeah.
I think that's
it's
good.
gonna help Seattle a lot more than it's
Can
gonna
I-
help us.
Maybe, I don't know.
That's all I can say. I mean, more power to it. I love Seattle.
can
but-
can I also presume that the board is okay with being the complexity of this issue that I also consult, so I can't consult necessarily with all of you real time, that I consult with the vice chair on an issue like this,
Yeah.
just to
course.
make sure
I'd
we
say the vice chair and
And
we
then-
can,
make a decision kind of from there based on,
Yes.
are we
This-
dotting the i's, crossing the t's kind of thing.
agree.
All right, any further discussion? Any clarification on the motion, Tracy? Okay,
Good for you.
Impressed. Yeah.
all right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All right, motion passes. Oh, sausage getting made in that one. All right, I believe, was that our last agenda? item?
Yep, that was it.
All right.
I know, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Yeah, 7 o'clock. We will, till next time, we'll go ahead and adjourn.
Eric, we're gonna catch you.